Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Empowering Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Glenn Harper. What's
Julie Smith,
going on, Julie?
you stumbled over that
You
big
know, I'm
word.
a fast talker today. It's the second cup of coffee. I'm not sure what's going on, but
Oh man, our
I'm
guest
feeling
is in for a treat then.
well. If he's anything like his bio says, he's probably amped up on from Red Bulls and coffee as well.
I've
Uh,
had my coffee.
my man. All right. Well, let me introduce our guest today, Jim Buffington, a hardcore CPA with an MBA just because he wanted to have more letters after his name. He doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. He has ultimately found the sweet spot, which is advising accountants on how to bring advisory services to their firm and their clients, as well as best practices to operate CPA firms more efficiently. He's an advisory service leader at Intuit Accountants. You might have heard about Intuit and QuickBooks. They run about 93.2456% of all financial statement preparation software worldwide. A typical CPA who ran his own firm and discovered slash learned of the secret sauce, and that is on the road helping other accountants be the best they can be. Thanks, Jim, for being on our show.
Thank you, Glenn. It's a privilege to be here.
Well,
Definitely you had to get in that very exact number. You guys were probably loving that as CPAs.
I honestly got I made that number up, but it's probably higher than that number. I'm guessing, and I'm sure Jim will tell us later, but it is that they are the elephant in the room. They are the ones that dominate the space for small business accounting. They've got great products. Used to be, desktop stuff, and now went to online, and they've got all the data. So
Talk
they get
about change in the industry and accountants. You've definitely had to, deal with that elephant in the
that's
room.
the deal. Well, we like to do obscure facts and figure out some things about our guests because you got to set the tone here. And I heard you just talk a skosh, but it definitely sounds like you grew up in Texas. You got a little twang to you. So is that a true statement?
Very true. Very true. I have lived in Texas almost my entire life, grew up in Fort Worth, migrated to College Station, Texas A&M. Whoop, I have five Aggies in my family. All my children went there and all have rings, so we're proud of that. And then I spent about a dozen years in public accounting, and then when I switched careers and got into technology, I migrated back to the DFW Metroplex, and we live just north of Dallas.
You get sucked back in. Plano's a great suburb. I've been there. It's growing like crazy. It's the deal. It says that you went to school at Texas A&M with an accounting degree, but like, why did you want to go to an agricultural mechanical college? Did you want to be a commissioned officer in the U.S. military, or was it agriculture mechanical? Which was it?
Yeah, that's a great question. The truth is, that was my backup school, and I've had great teachers and counselors in my life, and I'm thrilled for that. And my counselor made me have a backup. I was going to the Naval Academy, got accepted, was on my way, had my nomination and everything. And then as things happen, God had a different plan for my life. And in the spring of my senior year, that didn't work out. So then I looked around, I was like, okay, now what do I do? And my college counselor made us have a backup school. So A&M was a fabulous place to land. And I started as a physics major and realized quickly after my first semester that wasn't going to work out very well. And my roommate was flipping through the catalog, Brent, and he said, "Look, you can get into accounting, you can use your AP hours and still graduate on time." I said, "Fine, sign me up." And I joked that if agriculture had come before accounting in the alphabet, I probably would be an ag major today.
That is hilarious because it's always wondering, the journey had to be some sort of officer in a branch of service, and then to choose accounting after that, like that just doesn't happen. So that you definitely got the short straw on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you started your classes, obviously it doesn't sound like it was even on your radar, minus the alphabetic choice of it. Um, did it intrigue you? Did it have a passion, or were you just putting your head down, getting through it, going to graduate, figure it out later?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got my first job. We talk about entrepreneurs on this podcast. I got my first job when I was 11, and I worked up through, graduated from high school. I worked three jobs in college to put myself through. And looking back, I was 12 years old. I was really odd. I used to keep a ledger of what I earned that month and then what I spent and what went into my savings account every month. So I was probably born to be an accountant. I just didn't know it at the time.
That's
There's probably a lot of closet nerds out there that would be fabulous accountants when they grow up.
I
Um,
knew
That
I
might
was
be
gonna
one of
like
my
that.
favorite stories.
I get the whole ledger thing. I had one as a kid, a calculator watch. It's the thing, and then you didn't even know what one was until you became one. You're like, oh, that's how it all works.
I can
yeah.
assure our listeners that I never did that, still
Uh,
don't do that, and don't even understand the whole calculator
If you
thing.
just
So,
had a 10 key, it'd be great. So
Yes.
one of the fun things is, I had to look this up because I didn't know this, but what is an Aggie? Do you know what an Aggie is, Julie? I'm not
no,
going to put you on the spot,
no, I
but I
don't.
had to look this up. But apparently, it's just is what they call students that attend a land grant agriculture school. And I don't even know how many of those are there in the U.S. Do you know, is there a lot of those?
I think most, at least in the Midwest, most states do have an agricultural land grant school. We have a couple of them in Texas. We have the University of Texas system. We have the Texas A&M system. Both of them land grants. And in Texas, we're very fortunate that we had a lot of oil and gas revenue that funded those. So when I was going to school, tuition was pretty reasonable. We were joking the other day that football tickets back then were right around $4 to $6 a game. So we it was a little cheaper than when I put my kids through
Yeah.
just a few years ago.
Yeah, Johnny, in Pickens, they made a really nice stadium there, so that makes it a little more expensive.
Wait,
Uh,
I'm going to take us back. So, you talked about, I'm still stuck
no,
on
you're good.
keeping a ledger at 12 years old. Like, that
Don't
was,
be. It's just a thing. Yeah.
did you do anything entrepreneurial growing up, or were you always working for someone, or what did that look like growing up?
Mostly working for some. So we used to do in the summertime, I would mow yards and do yard work, and then in the wintertime, we sold firewood. So it was a year-round business, and I supported another family that did that uh, for several years, probably like 4 years. And then I did other jobs, and I was a Boy Scout, so I worked summers doing camp counselor work, and then through. I was very strategic in college. I managed to get a job taking care of a handicapped student, so I got a big discount on my dorm room. Got paid very well for a job that nobody else wanted to do. And then my one of my other jobs was I worked in the health center cafeteria, so I got free food. And
Smart.
so I managed to cover a lot of bases and still have a little income. So I was always pretty thoughtful about the jobs that I got that sort of fit into my schedule and helped support me through college.
Now, in college, did you do anything entrepreneurial? I mean, obviously, you had those jobs for the university that were obviously very strategic and good moves, but did you ever do anything on the side?
No, I would say really my entrepreneurial spirit sort of got unleashed in my public accounting days. So as soon as as I graduated, became a public accountant, I helped other entrepreneurs get started, and that was just a fabulous learning experience. Learning how to take a businesses, and this was back in the days when we had like cable television, and helping a very young 20 something take a bunch of video cameras and turn that into commercials for local television and ultimately selling that out to what eventually became AT&T's cable and turn it into a very big business. That was like one of my first experiences working with entrepreneurs and helping them actually create a business that has structure and um, then be able to market that and move that to the next level.
So, right out of college, you went and worked for like a regional CPA firm, small CPA firm, national CPA. What did,
Yeah, it was a very traditional firm. So they had three partners, about 30 employees, and that experience doing traditional work really shaped my view of public accounting and sort of where I wanted to take my career because what I noticed is as a young person coming in, it was very easy for me to bring in technology. I brought in the first computer. It was very easy for me to learn the new tax laws because I didn't have to unlearn a lot of other tax laws. But I noticed that the other partners, the older they got, the tougher it was to learn new things and unlearn a lot of habits. And while I was there, Mr. Wood,
some
who was
things never change, do they?
You,
they don't. And while I was
Just
there, Mr. Wood was 66 and he died at his desk. He smoked 2 packs a day, and his son was a couple doors down uh, in the office and probably destined for the same path. And I I love accountants and tax professionals. And I see this a lot, that we learn how to do this really well, and then we do this for our entire career. We create these deep relationships, and it's hard to separate ourselves from our work, and that becomes our identity. And so I learned early on, I love public accounting. I love helping entrepreneurs, but I don't want to do that my entire career. And so I decided that at some point I wanted to separate from public accounting and take a different path and try something different. And so about a dozen years in public accounting and got to do some fabulous things. I took a career change and jumped out to start a .com, went out and raised venture capital and put a team together and did the tech startup thing. And that was a great learning experience. It was a great team and learned a lot. But at the when the .com boom collapsed, we did not make it. And so that was an opportunity for me to kind of figure out which direction I wanted to go. And I realized I still love technology, and there were some parts of it, selling technology, helping customers embrace technology. And so I just combined my skill sets, my love for tax and accounting professionals with technology, and that took me to Intuit.
Now, did you get your MBA before you did the .com thing or after?
That would be after. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I probably earned two MBAs doing the .com thing.
Hmm.
And then I actually went to school after that and got mine. It was a fun time because I was doing night school and sitting across the desk from my kids doing their homework. And so it was a good, I took my time. It actually took me longer to get my MBA than it did my undergraduate degree, but we had a great time doing it, and my kids got to see me graduate.
Well, then you didn't want to make it look easy, and you wanted to milk that a little bit. I get it. That makes sense. You know, it's funny up here in the north. We look at everybody in Texas is either a rancher or oil person. It doesn't sound like you were either. Your parents weren't either. They're just normal people doing what they do. So they had real jobs. So you never really got the taste of the entrepreneur thing, other than just hustling a little bit. But they had real jobs growing up. So you weren't exposed to the entrepreneur thing, or
They did. In public accounting, it's funny you mentioned that because my first firm that I spent 2 years with, we had a ton of farmer clients. We had a lot of farmer rancher clients, and I joke, I used to eat lunch at least once a month out at the auction house where they basically you get this huge stake and you go auction and they auction off cattle every month. And I joke that, that was one of the best parts about working with farmers and ranchers is you eat really well. My
hmm.
second firm that I went to, we were in East Texas and had probably half of our clients had oil and gas. So spent a lot of time in oil and gas. And that is such a fun place because there's so many neat tax strategies that you can do. But it's also an interesting type of client and entrepreneur. These are people that uh, very, they love risk. They love to take a huge risk, dig a hole, pour a lot of money into it, strike it big, almost go broke, come so close to going bust, and then, the money comes in, and just about the time you think they're going to put something in the bank, they pour it all back down into another hole, and it's a roller coaster ride. And that's a very fun, exciting, uh, industry to be in, but it has a lot of nuances and things too. And again, I think we were able to make a big difference and help power a lot of prosperity in that space when I was in public accounting there.
It seems like you know, if you will work for a big accounting firm like one of the national firms, you're only there for say 3 years. You learn a specific task in a specific industry, and that's your breadth of knowledge in that little silo. But when you work for a smaller firm, you're kind of doing everything for every business. That experience there with having the getting your MBA and then going to Intuit, now you speak the language, you know what the clients need, you know what they're looking for, you know how to match technology. You're probably way ahead of your peers because of that experience, or maybe everybody on your team did it the same way. But I suspect that gave you a little bit of a head start from everybody to bring that technology because you understood the whole environment of a small business owner.
I think yes, and I think too, we have a challenge in our really across all of industries, but especially public accounting, hiring and retaining young people in our space. And I talk to a lot of early career folks who don't enjoy that very focused, very narrow, just do this job, whether you're in audit, whether you're in tax, and they want to make a difference in the world. They want to get involved with clients. They want to actually help those clients reach their goals, whatever those are, and be more engaged with that client and that business to really see it come to fruition. And that's, I think, a little bit more characteristic of this latest generation than my generation. My generation, we were happy to work hard. It was a badge of honor to work 60 hours a week during tax season, and you didn't get to see your family too much, during that first quarter. And there was a certain amount of pride there. I think, and rightfully so, I think it's a good thing. The younger generation doesn't want to work like that. They'd rather work smarter than harder. They'd rather make a bigger difference and feel like they are a part of something bigger. And so I think it's a great opportunity for our firms today, whether you're the big four or whether you're smaller, to really think about developing and growing your talent. That's what they're interested in making a difference and growing their skill set and making a difference. I was privileged that I don't really ever know any boundaries, and I still even here at Intuit don't really have any boundaries. So I'm never afraid to get involved with a client back then or with customers today. I spend a ton of my time today learning best practices from accounting firms and then getting to share those out with the rest of our profession and helping share those best practices around. My passion is really helping them sort of automate more of the compliance work, the traditional stuff, tax, accounting, compliance work, bookkeeping, financials, all those things that have to be done that are required but not necessarily desired by our customers. And then creating that capacity so that they can get to that next level and really unleash their amazing financial acumen and coach those businesses that really crave and need that extra advice, that coaching, that accountability.
Isn't that funny that accountants will kind of adopt their clients, not only financially, but totally emotionally. And we superimpose ourselves into their entire situation, their family, their business, and we look at it through a lens of how to help them be better and what they need to do. And we advise them when we nail it every time. When we look at ourselves as our own firms, it's impossible for us to do that. For some reason, accountants just historically have a hard time doing it. And I'm speaking from experience, right? Because you just like to get the work done, right? I don't know where you're working at 60 hours a week in tax season, but that sounds glorious compared to the 90 I used to work. But hey, maybe they do things different in Texas. I don't know. But now, the ability to look inward with the advisory side and helping CPAs run their business like a business, it also helps us identify different avenues for our clients as well, makes us better CPAs for our clients because we're looking at it through a totally different lens now. And that's great for the industry. That's great for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we begin to look at our business and create a plan and really start to set goals, and some of those are financial goals and some of those are other goals. I talk to firms all the time, and there's the money side of it, but then there's also the quality of life side. Some of these firm owners, they want to create great employment opportunities for their team because they love their team. They want to maybe create a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week. There's lots of different things, but as we begin to look at our business and be more strategic about how we run our business, about how we think about our team and our services and our workflows and the way that we deliver those and the value that we deliver to our clients, it looks very different. And that's a good thing. And again, most firms tend to be maxed out just because there's way more work than there is firms and people available today. So it's not a question of having enough work. It's choosing the type of work that we want to do and then making sure that we're building processes that support that so that we don't get overwhelmed or overloaded with just the compliance work.
Yeah, accountants, we just can't say no to our clients. It's impossible. And because we want to be there to help them because it's just a stereotypical typical trait that we have, right? We just want to help. But you look at, you start off, maybe you had 10 clients and you'd spend, 10 hours a month on all of them, right? Next thing you know, 5 years later, those same 10 clients are spending 100 hours a month because they grew and you grew with them.
Mm-hmm.
The client doesn't look at it that way. They just think you're always there. They don't realize that you're bringing more value, more tasks, and they don't understand. And we as accountants don't know how to communicate that to our client to say, look, we got to up this engagement. They're like, what are you talking about? Aren't you? And it's just very hard to learn that. And that's something we've been able to do over the years. And again, I think what you're doing over at Intuit to just put the word out there for accounts, it's okay to ask to what you're worth, and it's okay to run your business like a business. You don't have to do it just for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think we do tend to give away a lot of services to our clients. You mentioned we care deeply about them. Sometimes we care more about their finances than they care about their finances.
Crazy, isn't it? It's
That's
crazy.
not a healthy thing.
Nope.
I always like to say that, our greatest value is not accounting, but it's accountability. It's helping them be accountable to whatever their goals are. And I think a lot of firms that are leading with advisory, they're taking a step back instead of just saying, all right, look, here's the list of work we got to do: income tax returns, sales tax returns, investments, all those kind of things. They're taking a step back and saying, all right, what are your goals? Where do you want to be in a year, 3 years, 20 years? Why did you start this business? What does this business mean to you? And as we begin to ask those questions, then we can begin to document what the goals are for those clients, and then begin to build plans and help them reach those goals. Those can be formal budgets, those can be targets, those can be a little bit softer type goals, but helping folks reach their goals and be accountable to what they want to get to. And when we understand what their goals are, it makes the planning and advisory go so much smoother. The clients enjoy those kind of conversations. The clients enjoy, talking about where they'd like to go. What they don't enjoy so much, and accountants, we spend a lot of time there looking in the rearview mirror. Hey, we need to get last year's books cleaned up. Hey, we need to get tax returns from 6 months ago filed. Those types of things aren't necessarily exciting, but when we can align with the clients and look in their direction, present, start to address some of the problems and challenges they have in their business, and look forward where they want to go, then it makes getting all that compliance stuff easier. And what we actually find is the firms who have flipped the model from just client-driven workflows where they focus on all this tax and accounting and other compliance work that has to be done, those firms tend to have 10-month tax seasons. They're doing it all year long. They're cleaning things up all year long. When you start with the planning, when you start with advisory, what happens is over a period of time, 6 months or so, those books become more real time. Those books become more caught up. And there's a lot more opportunity to just slide in a little more automation. Every time you're meeting and you're understanding some of the things that are going wrong, there's probably another opportunity to fix something, fix some small area that can automate more of that back office work. And so over time, that stuff becomes more automated, more real time. The conversations are more about forward looking and goal driven conversations rather than compliance driven rear view looking. And so what happens is these firms, when they get to January and February, they can close out the books on their own. They don't have to ask for anything. They can begin preparing those tax returns on their own. And a lot of them are finishing their tax season by April, which then creates 6 months of capacity that they didn't have. And now they can do more planning meetings, more advisory work. And so starting with the planning advisory actually helps solve a lot of the client-driven workflows in the compliance tax season accounting world.
It's funny, entrepreneurs, the typical small business, whether solopreneurs or whatever, that a smaller firm would deal with, it's literally herding cats. There's spider monkeys everywhere because all entrepreneurs look at is opportunity. They just see something, but it's really hard for them, at least the first time, to get that infrastructure and the planning. They just see it and they go get it. And the accountant always has to come in and do cleanup work and fix whatever they did that they shouldn't have done in the first place. If they would just have the conversation or have the relationship where they can look at us as more of an advisor, not just a compliance person, it really does help the entrepreneur immensely. And then what it does, it lets the accountant then flex and do what they're really supposed to be doing for their client, not just cleaning up messes. That's just no fun for anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned earlier that we start out with 10 clients, and my experience is within about 3 to 5 years, each new firm is pretty well maxed out. If you want to be, you're going to be maxed out. And we all start out as generalists. We took every client that knocked on our door and was a referral from another client. Um, what I see with firms who flip this model and say, look, we don't want to just be the tax and accounting payroll type firm and do traditional services. We want to start leading with planning and advisory. We want to make a difference with clients. Those firms begin to identify what they're really good at and where they have energy and passion and where their team is best invested. And so they tend to be, instead of a generalist, they start to focus on a certain type of client. Could be construction, real estate investors, maybe dentists. I talked to somebody the other day who was doing grocery stores. There's just all kinds of niches. I have no clue, about most of them, but some people are passionate about different things. And so over time, these firms begin to see what they're really good at, and they begin to focus where their expertise is and their energy is. And that happens over many years. So I have a couple firms that I've followed. One firm that I follow, Chris, I've probably been with him for 9 years. And each year he keeps narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. And that means taking some clients out of the firm and moving them. He has another partner that used to work with him that he just farms them over to them. If they're not within his niche, he just moves them out so that he can continue to focus on his niche and his specialty, and they deliver great services, tons of value. His fees have continued to rise. He's got less employees now, working less clients, but higher fees and more time on his hands. And that is really sort of the magic formula. I'm not saying that's easy at all. It's not. It's a multi-year process, but it is very possible. And I think this is such a phenomenal industry. And I think for young people, if we can help create firms that really give them the opportunity to grow and develop, we can create just such an amazing place to help foster more entrepreneurs in the next, decade, couple decades.
It's funny as accountants, number one, there might be a couple stereotypes about us. I don't know, some are probably maybe warranted a little bit. Some are just absolutely BS. Like we would wear short sleeve shirts with a pocket, and there's no way we would do that
with a protector, though.
Right. Well, that's not a stereotype. That's a fact. But I think one of the biggest fears that most accountants probably have, and it's a very unfounded fear, but like we don't want to not know something. And so the fear of going, well, I'm only going to do dentists. Well, that means I don't know anything about anything else. And there is some truth to the fact that there is accounting is accounting and tax is tax across all industries. There's those subsets in each industry. That's where the money's being made for the advice. And as you build your team, you can still do multiple disciplines, but you're going to have experts in those things, or you won't be able to compete with a specialized company, right? Because you just can't do it. But it's just so hard to just say, well, I'm going to only just do grocery stores. Like now I'm pigeonholed into this one little thing, and that's not glamorous or exciting. Wait, I want to get over and do some oiling over here, and I want to go over and do some, offshore whatever. And that's just a different thing. And it's really, I think that's hard. And I think that's probably what we've struggled with a little bit is who do we want to be? What kind of client do we want to deal with?
But I think, and I think this goes, all industries, all entrepreneurs is, you said, really niching down who your client is, but it doesn't just, I think, don't stay narrow-minded in that sense, because as you look at your firm and you look at your team and you look at what you can accomplish, this goes for us, but I think we've walked into many firms that it's been true, or just entrepreneurs that walk through our door, is look at your team and really take a deep dive into their strengths, because you might have Joe, who's really good at grocery stores. Again, how did we get on the grocery store thing? But Joe, who's really good at grocery stores, and you help him build that niche with him, with what your firm has to offer. but maybe Jim is really good at dentist. And so it's finding each person's strength and being able to build on that. And like, we haven't talked internally, we've talked a lot about externally in regards to Intuit, but just have the processes and systems in place to support everybody to be able to get their success. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about is the young people want choices, right? They want to work towards something bigger than themselves. Now they don't really want to work, as we've discussed, but that's a whole different podcast. But how do you get them to achieve that with what your firm has? And I think that is the number one question in this industry. And it's really looking at what are their strengths, what are their individual goals, and how do you support that with the infrastructure you have in place? And I think once you're able to do that, the sky is the limit in regards to being able to scale your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on something too, Julie, is niche doesn't always just mean a specific industry. It can be a psychographic. So it may be, hey, you love people who are, you know, advanced technology. You only want to work in a digital workflow, or you may have people who are startups. And I know one firm that works in startups, and people who do startups oftentimes create multiple startups. And that may be an area that you really enjoy working in. Other firms like businesses that are a little bit more mature. And so they may have other dynamics other than just industry that identifies who they are. I have a few who only work with women-owned businesses, and they do a fabulous job supporting them because, let's face it, women have very unique needs and skill sets and parameters that maybe other businesses wouldn't have. And so you learn to support those businesses in a much better way that a generalist firm maybe could. But I think to your point, as we look at the next generation and we say, how can we help them grow and develop, and what are their strengths and where can we leverage those? I think that's a different way than accounting firms have traditionally looked at their talent. We've typically hired talent to fill a specific job, and that may not be the best way to do it in the future.
Well, and I think the other thing in this industry that's changing and will have to fiercely change is everybody's looking for the unicorn, right? They want that CPA with 7 years experience. They will not, that is what they want, right? And they're probably still hiring today. But you have to really look at your firm and think of the tangible and intangible characteristics that you need for your firm culture, your team, and your clients, and kind of hire that. It's just a different way of hiring than the industry has seen before. And I think, like I said, I think it's catching on. The change is happening. What can you teach? What can you not teach? And really being able to leverage that.
Yeah, I think today too, the days of the closet accountant just sitting in the back corner, stacks of paper, grinding out numbers, that doesn't sound exciting at all. And
it does to some people though. And
right.
So to that fact is like,
we need people like that.
What are your team's strengths? I mean, we have some people that like, if you would say you've got to get on a call and give a presentation, they would literally rather do so many other things. But then we have a whole group of people who are like, put me on there on the spot. I'll do it no matter what. And so I think to that, there's the stereotypical, but it's also like I just getting outside of that to say, hey, your strength is communicating. That is amazing. Hey, your strength is, digging out the data and giving us the solution or the outcome. This person can go communicate it, and just really working on that.
Well, and that's the whole team working together with the strengths and weaknesses of what it is to get the product out. But ultimately, we all know in accounting, somebody has to have the relationship with the client where they can speak the language, they can read the client, they know what they want, they can communicate effectively. And that person may not know anything about tax and accounting. They might know everything about advisory and the strategies, but they don't know how actually to do the data. And the person that loves doing the data wants zero interest in talking to the client. So when you can leverage a team to do the different pieces, that's, I think, when you get to that spot. But man, if you try to make a duck an elephant and an elephant a fish, it just isn't going to happen, right? And we as accountants got to recognize that not everybody wants to be in a corner working, and not everybody wants to go out and talk to clients. Is that what you see?
I totally agree with that. And I think when you can build your practice and really sort of think about what is the value that our clients need, our clients want, and then be able to deliver that from multiple, you got some people who are great at doing the data in the background, keeping all the accounting up to date and giving you all the information. And making those accountable reports, and then others having the conversation and teasing out, where they want to go. That's an awesome combination. I think one thing that's applicable both to firms and to entrepreneurs is, we call our firms practices because when we start, you don't know everything. You can't know everything. Even today, there's so much more compliance and regulation than there was just 5 years ago. Just 5 years ago. By the way, it's going to keep accelerating. And we don't really get into the details of any specific problem until we have a client that asks or has a problem, or we realize there's a problem. And then we begin to unpack it, and we're great at problem solving. It's what we do. We go research it, we figure it out, and we practice on our clients. And we learn, and then we apply that to other clients. What we need to do is just figure out where is the value, practice on a few clients, and then begin to repeat that on other clients. One of the areas that I spent the last couple of years doing is building out a solution, Intuit Tax Advisor. It's really focused on strategy. So as long as I've been in this for 35 years, we've always focused on getting the tax return done, focus on the liability, minimize the liability. But we've never communicated to our clients, how much are we actually helping save you? How much will this strategy make a difference in your short and long-term plans? This is going to save you $30,000. This is going to help you get to $1 million business, or $1 million retirement plan, or $1 million real estate sale, whatever. We don't focus so much on the ROI or the benefit down the road of this strategy. And so this last couple of years working with firms that are starting to deliver that ROI, to deliver, here's what the strategy will save you. We've been working in that area. And so what I find is it doesn't take very many strategies to start communicating a very big difference to your clients with just, a handful, a dozen or so strategies. And by the way, every tax and accounting professional knows way more than a dozen things that they could do with their clients. They just don't necessarily think about delivering it or presenting it to their clients that way. They can easily say, hey, we're helping save you $25,000, $50,000 a year in taxes doing these couple of things. And so a lot of it is experimenting. Try it with a few clients. And if that works, can you expand that out to more clients? And then can you make that a full-on service that you offer to clients? It takes a little bit of trial and error. It takes practice. And I say that for both tax and accounting professionals and entrepreneurs. We should be doing that in our businesses every day. You got to keep figuring out what customers need, what customers want, what customers are willing to pay for, and then how do you present that in a way that you can help deliver a lot of value and they can see that value and are willing to pay for that value. So that's one area that I think most tax and accounting firms today would benefit from, but we're moving very slowly. We tend to be overworked already today. So trying to think about shifting services, it's generally, it takes a lot of accountability and a lot of work to get there.
Well, I think a typical CPA is they want to be the hero behind the scenes, and we're not necessarily got the swag. We walk up, Bob, we kicked butt today, and this is all the planning. We saved you 50 grand this year. How cool is that? High five. Like, that's just not our personality type. We know what we did. We just never communicate to the client. The client just gets this great product, but they didn't even know how it happened, and we don't tell them really. It's just something we don't talk about, which is weird. But it's historically how accountants are. And we shouldn't be ashamed to say, hey, we helped you do this project or do this strategy, and this saved you a bunch of money. How cool is that? Let's celebrate that. Instead, we're like, yeah, you, instead of owing 50 grand, you only owe 10,000. How cool is that? Here you go. Sign here and we'll send it off. Like, we just don't toot the successes, which is strange, I admit. So I think to your point, we just have to figure out a way to communicate that better, where clients don't look at it like, we don't think that they're looking at us like we're being boastful. It's just more of like, hey, guess what? Here's our scorecard. Here's how we did.
Right. Exactly. And that also helps get them more engaged in the planning and advisory process. Customers, generally entrepreneurs, they love focusing on whatever their passion is. They don't love focusing on, the back office things, getting accounting done, getting taxes done, payroll, sales tax, things like that that are
Not sexy.
required, but not necessarily desired. They know they got to do it. And by the way, those are the things that oftentimes get businesses in trouble. So if they don't do those things, that's usually a huge contributor to the failure rate. And we know that about half of those new businesses are going to fail in the first 5 years, oftentimes because they're not paying payroll taxes or sales taxes or things that need to be done. So this is all important foundational stuff. We just got to bring it to them in a way that helps reach their goals, that focuses on the things that are important to them, whether that's growing their customers or being more profitable or having more time on their hands or automating more of their technology and their workflow challenges, whatever the things are that are important to them. We just need to come and present the work that we do in a way that delivers value for them more than just that compliance work that we all know has to be done.
Well, I'm going to pivot here because your journey is interesting in the fact that usually we're getting the entrepreneur, they've done corporate America, then they become the entrepreneur, where you kind of worked in small business, became the entrepreneur, and now you're, in the corporate world. But if there's a piece of advice that you could give our entrepreneurs out there, or even our people that, maybe have taken the same journey that you've taken, what's a lesson that you've learned in your journey that our listeners would find helpful?
Yeah, so I'm super fortunate here at Intuit. I've been here over 20 years and I get to reinvent my own job and the work that I do many times, like every 3 years or so. And I tend to work over the horizon. So I tend to work on innovation stuff that's a little bit out there in the future. And what I've learned is never to be afraid of failure. Failure is just progress. It's just a step towards success. And I like to say I have more failures here at Intuit than anybody. I also have some very big successes. But one of the things that one of my mentors told me years ago, uh, Steve actually developed one of the most popular accounting products ever, ATB. I don't know if you were familiar with it, but Accountant's Trial Balance was a very popular program years ago, and Steve was one of my mentors, and he told me, if you have a great idea, tell everybody. Tell everybody you run into your idea, take their feedback, continue to refine it, and keep telling everybody. And eventually your idea will come back around from other people and say, hey, I have this great idea, and it'll be your idea. And repetition doesn't ruin the prayer. You should share your idea, your passion with every person you come in contact with. Don't hold those ideas. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs feel like they have some sort of secret sauce. Tell everybody, broadcast it loudly. You want everybody to know about your idea, to talk about your idea. I've never been concerned about taking credit. I've always enjoyed being part of a really big team that can help change the world. And that is an amazing thing. And so I'm so privileged that I've been part of great teams. I even say that Intuit's not really a job for me. It's just a platform. And it's an amazing platform where I get to help influence and shape our profession and help hopefully make a difference for the next generation of tax and accounting professionals.
Isn't it funny? He's went from one-to-one helping clients to the one to the many. When you help many CPAs or many accounting firms, then they get to help millions of other people. It's a different journey to where you're at to what you went to than most entrepreneurs, right? You got back into like you said, a platform that lets you do your passion, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And so I have one last question, and this is always a good answer that we get from our
He'll never get this one right.
What is your superpower?
No, not that one.
Oh, what is my superpower? That's a good one. Yeah, so I would say deep customer empathy. Really, I love my people, my tax and accounting professionals. And I think getting close to them, really understanding what their problems are, really understanding their challenges, their joys, the things they celebrate, where they want to go. And I think that is key to me helping both learn from them and then being able to share that out with the profession and helping make a difference. But really getting close to our customers. And I will say we do a ton of research here at Intuit, and we do a lot of technology. I mean, tons of technology. And in all the research we've done, our technology has never actually helped a company be successful by itself. The only thing we've found that correlates to success of a small business today is having a professional engage with them that can advise and coach them towards success. It's a person, not technology, not a solution, not a piece of software. And so I cling to that and say that, we do influence and help power prosperity with small businesses and entrepreneurs around the world. But I would say the biggest way that we do that is through advisors who come alongside that entrepreneur and help coach them to success.
That is very profound. If you ever need a guinea pig to work with on Intuit from a perspective of, your product of the accountant, the QuickBooks Online, to what does the accountant look for to try to get efficient at their job versus what somebody who's doing their own books looks for, we'd love to have some dialogue on that to share with you some feedback. I'm sure you heard it all before, but it can't hurt a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm not into that, but
Yeah, that's not really probably
I'm not signing up for that, Julie.
No, I don't get it.
I can help you operate and run a firm in regards to using QuickBooks, but beyond that, I got no idea what happens.
So I thought you were going to ask the end question.
Well,
okay.
I mean, we can go that route. His was a different journey. So,
boy.
What is your end game?
Ooh.
My end game? My purpose is really to help unleash the amazing financial acumen of our tax and accounting professionals. That's what I want. I know that they can. My dream would be to automate all of that compliance work and take that off their plate so that they can have richer conversations, so they can help hold those entrepreneurs accountable to whatever their goals and dreams are and help them reach those. I think when we can get to that point, you don't need me around anymore. I'm done.
But are you really going to be done?
Never.
I feel like you're going to be onto something in the horizon that you don't even know exists
just out
to
there
help those people that have automated all of that.
About 14 miles.
Yeah, I'll have to have another career beyond this one then. If I get to that point, it's time to move on to the next.
Well,
phase.
I can't wait to have you back on whenever that happens, because it's coming.
It's coming. Well,
We're
Jim,
getting closer.
Oh boy. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. I don't know if you want to give a little plug to that little firm you work for that people might want to.
People might not know what it is.
I really don't. I'd rather elevate our tax and accounting professionals. I think
Perfect.
they make an amazing difference. Again, I would encourage all of them, make sure that you're having those rich conversations with your entrepreneur clients and asking them what their goals are and helping hold them accountable. Build a plan. Most of these businesses are operating without a plan. Put a plan together, help them reach those, and really help power prosperity. Glenn, Julie, thank you so much for the work that you do in supporting entrepreneurs out there, and really appreciate the message that you're putting out there in the marketplace.
Jim, you're going to get me all emotional. Nobody ever tells their accountant they care about them, so I don't know what to do.
He is a podcast host, not
I gotta go.
Accountant.
I gotta go to therapy now. But no, I really appreciate you being on here. Wish you the greatest success. If we can help you in any way, shape, or if you need guinea pigs, like I said, we'll line up tomorrow and do whatever you need. Another great episode. Thanks for being on the show, Jim. I'm Glenn Harper.
Julie Smith.